Hi, everybody. It's another Conversations With. And my name is Dick Vaughan, and with me is my very good friend, Richard Morchoe. Well, Richard, we've gone through an election of sorts, and here we sit, and nothing seems to have changed much. I, uh, I, uh, I saw a great story today that I guess the mayor is now taking over the Trump defense, and he is, I guess he went into court, and Mulvaney, who's the former chief of staff, said he's, came up with a statement today, said he's a moron.
He said that about Giuliani?
Yeah, he said he's in there, and he said he's in there, and he's ruining the case. If we even had one, he's made it worse. He said you're trying to insult the judge. You know, I guess he went in and said something about Mickey Mouse today. He was, and he said, to the judge. But anyway, and then he now wants $20,000 a day.
Giuliani does?
Yeah, $20,000 a day to handle these things.
Well, Trump, I don't know what the status of, but this woman lawyer, Sidney Powell, supposedly is working for him on something, and she's very confident of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that guy who defended that kid from the Catholic school in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Well,
they got rid of, all the lawyers are gone now. Giuliani's taken over the whole case. Everybody else is out.
Well, I don't think that's wisdom, but supposedly Powell and that Linwood guy are working something. But, hey, let it go through the courts.
Oh, yeah.
And if he loses, he has to leave.
Yeah.
And then Biden, if he can remember his name, will go into
That'd be nice.
All right. If that genius, intellect.
I didn't say he was a genius.
That intellect of all his life.
But I want to share something with you. I made the mistake because someone touted me about it. So I started to look at Facebook.
Yeah, you've been talking about Facebook. He's an addict, folks.
And so I'm watching it now daily. And one of the things that's really alarmed me, frankly, is I have some people that I've loaned through, some of them through business. One fellow I used to do a talk show with on the radio, used to come in once a month, so I know, has a business, I know him. A couple of others I knew through service organizations, and a couple of them I was on the board of directors of various organizations with. And they're on Facebook. Now, one of them is a lady who is an attorney. And in fact, I used to have a talk show with her on the radio. And she's a conservative, and I understand that. But some of the things that they're saying on Facebook that they come up with, the statements that they make, and they underline them and everything, I scratch my head because I say, wow. I mean, it's unbelievable how some of this, I'm saying, I can't believe that woman or that gentleman, who I always kind of respected, is in that deep. And it's really surprised me. But as you and I have discussed, I've said from the beginning that the one thing I give Trump credit for is the people who believe in him. Man, do they believe in him.
But you got to say the opposite side, too. The people who don't like Trump, boy, do they hate him.
Oh.
And I'm not going to mention any names.
Yep. I have no argument that people who don't like him don't like him. And that's where the 77 million votes, a lot of them came from, is people who didn't necessarily crazy about Biden, but certainly were not going to give Trump another 4 years.
If they could help it. And you were one of them.
Oh, I supported Biden, no question about it. And as I've said many times, he wouldn't be my first choice, but he was the choice that was given to me.
Okay, I got that. And that's where I disagree. I have to say, in Massachusetts, first of all, our vote doesn't matter. We all know who was going to win. It was going to be Biden, just because whatever you want to say about Trump supporters, the Massachusetts Democrat is a conformist from the word go.
No, here's a surprising thing, though. And all the towns touch each other. Sturbridge, Charlton, Oxford, Leicester, and Spencer
They voted Republican.
all voted for Trump.
Yeah.
And then went down and voted for Ann Goby.
The reason why Ann Goby gets elected, and it's not, is if you call her, she takes your call.
Oh, yeah.
She'll come back to you. That's why she wins.
Oh, yeah.
Because really, most people who vote in the down, they
Down ballot, yeah.
Yeah, they're only caring about did you get my kid into school or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you go into some of her other things she's voted for, she's fairly left wing. But when it comes to
Customer
service,
Yeah, she's excellent.
she'd be conservative if she had to.
Yeah,
So that's understandable.
yeah.
But the parts of the ticket, the upper parts of the ticket, the Democrats own that in this state.
Oh, yeah.
People are mindlessly conformist. I take that back. Well, I don't take that back. Conformism will always be somewhat mindless. And that's true of Republicans
Yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah.
But how would you, I've been wondering about this because sometimes I'd say, boy, he knows politics and he's pretty clear on the concepts. But then you seem like not that you sold your soul for Trump, I mean for Biden, but you're in the tank a little. How would you describe yourself politically? Liberal, conservative, what?
Well, let me tell you about me. I am ultra-conservative fiscally. I am a firm believer. You cannot spend what you do not have. And that goes back to when I was chairman of the finance committee in one of the communities here.
When you had to run things and
You got to pay the bills.
check the sofas for the children.
You got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And so even at the house, I try whenever possible never to pay full price for anything. I could be accused of being cheap, but I think it's more frugal because I ran businesses for many, 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 many years. Fortunately, they were successful. And I've explained, I call it the nut. I was in broadcasting, so you're pretty much, you don't have any surprises. You know, what you start out the year with, you end up the year with. So your costs are all pretty fixed. You got your payroll, so you have your staff, you know how many you're going to need. Well, what I used to do in running the companies, and I was always the guy that signed the check, so, I had to make sure the money was there, is that I would know the nut. So let's say I knew it was going to cost me $400,000 to run the company. I would project the year so that on or about the first, second, or third week in September, I'd have the nut. I knew, because I'd have the sales department, so I knew that we had to do so much business by September. So I'm using 400,000. So by September, I'd have 400,000 in the bank. Now, the three best months in broadcasting were October, November, and December.
Yeah.
And then because you have Halloween, then you go into Thanksgiving and you got Christmas, Santa Claus. So a lot of companies back in those days, those small businessmen, the Nat Falks of the world, the Eddie Belchers, they do 40 to 50% of their business from the 15th of November to the end of December.
I know that.
40 to 50, 60% in some cases. So that's when they'd spend the advertising. So what would happen is I would have everything paid by the middle of September. So the rest of the year was ours. And that would be our profit.
Right.
So and that's how I would do the budget. And even with the salespeople, let's say I had a salesman that did see, I knew I had studies. I studied things. and I had Harvard Business do a study for me. You know what motivates people the most? Money.
Money. Yeah.
So once I knew that,
Yeah.
and I saw the numbers, that 78% of the people are motivated most by money, I would go to the salesman. At the right after Christmas, I'd bring him in one at a time, and I'd say, "Okay, Richard, you did 100,000 this year in billing. Did a great job. I'm really happy. You did well. You made this much money. Let me ask you a question. Could you do 105,000 next year? I mean, that's only 5,000. Spread it over 12 months. That's only $500-600 a month. Yeah, I could do that. Well, good. Because you know what? If you do 5,000 more than you did this year, the minute you hit 105,000, I'm going to give you $1,000. Whoa! You'd sit right up, and you'd be all excited. I'd say, hey, you know something? Let me ask you a question. Just me, I'm crazy. But if you could do 105, could you do 110? Look at me. I said, think about it. That's only less than $1,000 a month. $800 more each month. Because I'll tell you why. If you could do 110, on the day you hit it, I'm going to give you $2,000 more. So, boy, you do 110, you're going to get $3,000, and I'll give you that cash. So you don't even have to tell the little lady when you get home. If you want to just put that in your pocket. And that's what I would do. And guess what? I had some great salesmen.
I get you probably did.
One day my partner comes to me and he says, Dick, you're crazy. What do you mean? You're going to give him $3,000? And I went like this. Al, come here. I said, let me tell you a little secret. If he does 110, we get 7. He gets 3. You don't like that? I never looked at it that way. You see what I'm saying? Because I knew that I'd have the nut by September. So whatever he did after that, and that's how I would motivate my salespeople.
Does.
You know, and I had a great sales staff.
So that's how.
But I'll finish, because now I'm a fiscal conservative. Boy, I watch every penny, because I learned that from my father. If you watch the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. He used to say that to me all the time. So I learned that. And I grew up, you know, back in the 40s and 50s when my father was gone for 5 years. Yeah. You know, so, you know, we had stamps and we had rationing and we had street lights on at night and the warden would go around town. So you grew up in that. And so you looked at things a little differently. And that was one of my great successes because I knew how to. In fact, I remember when we sold one of our stations, the guy said, I don't buy stations, I buy management. I'll only buy it if you stay. So I made a 3-year deal with him and I stayed. And every once in a while, he had 12 other stations. And he'd call up and he'd do a sweep. And he'd call me up on Monday and say, Dick, can you send some cash? How much you want? What did you say? I said, how much do you want? How much you got? No, how much do you want? He said, well, can you send me 10? I'll send you 20. You can send me $20,000? Yeah, I'll wire it today. And he called me, he says, how do you do it? I said, I just watch the pennies and the dollars take care of themselves. But I mean, so that way, now I'll go to the other side.
Yeah, let's go, come on, I've been waiting.
The other side. Now, we are our brother's keeper. I haven't tell you that story. I'm home one day, I'm 11. I come home from school, my dear mother is sitting at the dining room table and she paid the bills. And I remember the Metropolitan man used to come for it and she'd give him the quarters for each one of the kids' insurance. Remember the old Met guy, the debit guy?
Yeah,
anyway,
guy, yeah.
She's doing the bills. Now this is 1946, 47, and she takes $1, puts it in an envelope. Now, Dick, back in those days, $1 bought me 20 Coca-Colas.
I know that, yeah.
And I could go to the movies 10 times for $1. $1, Mom? Who's that? And she showed me the envelope. And on the corner of the envelope is a little kid, caricature. And he's got another little smaller kid on his shoulder with a crutch.
Boys too.
He ain't heavy, Father. He's my brother. My mother says, you have a brother you don't even know. What? And she tells me about my brother. And then she gave me this story. He doesn't have a beautiful bedroom like you do. He doesn't even have a mom and dad. He doesn't have a nice car in the driveway. He doesn't have the kind of clothes that you have. And she went through the whole routine.
So how does that lead you,
Let me
Paul?
finish. I learned then that we are, and she gave me the big pitch about we have to take care. Charity begins at home, and you have to take care of everybody. And if you see somebody who needs some help, you got to help them. So there's my liberalism, where I reach out to people. If we need help, we got to help them. I'll tell you a great story when I was involved with Dukakis. Chuck Atkins was the commissioner of welfare. And there was a big brouhaha because somebody on welfare bought a TV or got a car or did something, and there was big, the Globe Spotlight team. So we had a big meeting. Dukakis is furious, says to Chuck, I want to find out. Chuck says, okay, Michael, I'll do a whole study. Chuck, he said, bring me back the answer. 2 weeks you got. 2 weeks is up. We go back to the meeting. Chuck Atkins comes in. He says, Michael, I did a complete study and everything. He said, we have about 3% of the people on welfare are cheats. 97% of the people on welfare are desperate and they need it. And the problem we have is, how do I crack down on 97% because 3% abuse it? And I went, whoa. Because I myself was, hey, we got to get those welfare cheats. And when you look at it from that perspective, it gives you a different look. So I'm probably liberal on a lot of situations this way, but on dollars and cents, I'm a conservative. So I don't know where I fall. Maybe I'm to the left. I don't know.
Well, I do wonder about that myself because there are a lot of people, and it's a very ugly thing when you really start thinking about it. You get some probably not very noble thoughts. But all right, so we probably have to help the people who have the most decrepit lives, because for the same reason we clean the streets. We can't have them sleeping in the streets. Can we uplift them? I don't know. But,
well, I think one of the problems is there are some people that no matter what you do for them, it doesn't change much. And then there are other people, you give them an opportunity and they soar. But where does the response, now I see that they're now starting to talk about, and I was looking, it goes back to this Facebook, I was watching it on Facebook. They're talking about Biden says he's going to forgive $50,000 of student loans. And a bunch of people who've already paid theirs off were furious, and rightfully so. I can certainly understand their furor. On the other hand, I'm in a situation where I have a daughter who is still paying hers off. She got another 2 years. It was a 20-year deal, and I pay part of it. That was my agreement. I told her if she graduated, I'll pay half your loan every month, which I do. And so I have no problem doing it, and I'm very delighted that I can do it. But I say, oh, she doesn't know that much. I think it's probably down to 2,000 or 3,000 now. So that the point is that so what, But free college, there's no such thing as free college.
Somebody pays for everything.
Yeah, someone's going to. Look, I always used to tell people, and I used to do promotions on the radio with remember the Ice Capades? And they'd come to town in Springfield, and I'd get tickets to give away. And they'd say, oh, they're free tickets. No, they're not.
No.
I mean, the Ice Capades paid for those. Now, they gave them to me because I gave them advertising. So I paid for them because I ran ads. Really paid for them.
Oh, the people might have
and
bought something because you gave the ad.
That's right.
Yeah. Somebody paid.
And so, but the bottom line is, that night that you and your wife and your 3 kids used the tickets to see the ice capades. Those were 5 seats they didn't sell. You know, there's no revenue that night for them, those 5 seats. And then we always had seats right near the ice, and they were the plants. They would end up being the plants because we were kind of the in people. So that's when they'd come skating over and they'd throw the water, only it was confetti, you know, and everybody would duck. And then if they went over and brought somebody out on the ice, it would be one of our people, you know, and they thought they died and went to heaven. Not only did I get a ticket, my kid rode in a little car when they drove it around the ice. You know, it was all planned because they knew that those were the people that would be willing to do it. And I mean, I remember my daughter Kathy still talks about it. When Dorothy Hamill won the Olympics, she was in the ice capades that year, and they had a thing at Eastern States for the media to promote the ice capades. So I took my daughter Kathy, who was at the time 10 or 11 years old, and she went and she got a picture with Dorothy Hamill, and she sat and Dorothy talked to her. She still talks about it, and she's 50, you know, and so you could do those things, you know, in those days. But anyway, yeah, I don't know where I fall, but I tell you this, there is no such thing as a Republican and a Democrat. Gone. They don't exist. You're either a conservative, ultra-conservative, you know, moderate, populist, centrist, you know, flaming liberal, you know, sort of liberal.
Well, how come they have registrations on the ballots if there's no such thing as a Democrat or Republican?
But what I'm telling you is the Democratic Party that your parents grew up in, or the Republican Party, and the Democrat and Republican Party that my parents, when my dad and mother were alive and younger, my father came back today, he wouldn't believe it.
Well, no, because the Democratic Party used to be for industrial unions. But there are, you know, you look at the plants along here, they're gone.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all governmental unions,
Yeah.
which Franklin Roosevelt said you can't have government workers as union men. It perverts the whole thing. So the Democrats have had stopped standing up for the working man for a long time ago. And it's a bourgeois class of so-called civil servants. Some of them are really valid civil servants. Some of them are flacks, just part of the bureaucracy, that the Democratic Party stands up for, the governmental union worker.
Well, you know, the thing is, one of the things, and you see it now, is that, as I've said to you, the governments are corrupt, starting right with the United States government.
And the minute you said that, my pacemaker, it just shorted out completely. I was so shocked.
Come on. I mean, now there's a big brouhaha. Lindsey Graham, who called Trump every name in the book, who became his #1 patsy in the Senate, calls the Secretary of State of Georgia and asks him, is there any way he can get rid of some of those ballots?
Yeah, I haven't really followed that closely.
And of course, the guy, this Raffensperger, who's the Secretary of Georgia, was stunned. And he says, no, they're votes. They voted. Yeah, but can't you just, you know, he says, no, we can't. We've got them. They're here. We're doing a complete recount because there's been some questions. But he said, when I get the recount finished, they're going to be done tonight at 6. He said, that's it. And he said, nothing's changing. A couple of votes here or there. He said, no major change. Biden wins. And he said, I can't believe you called me and asked me if we could just throw some ballots out. And now Graham is saying, oh, that was only a simple question. I certainly would. I mean, it's just hysterical.
Well, it probably is.
But that goes back to, and I'm not picking on Lindsey Graham's. No, I mean, it goes back to the Congress. And for every Lindsey Graham, there's a Democrat Graham. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. I'm telling you that they're all tainted. You know, they'll do anything.
Well, yes. Which we had a discussion several weeks ago about amending the system because there's just too much money in it.
Oh,
There's too much. It's too much is at stake on that one day. That the process is one of a complete obfuscation on both sides, and like I said, I don't see anything good coming out of it for a long while.
no, no. We have it's going to be very interesting to see future elections, because when you realize how many people voted, I mean, Trump got 72 million votes,
Yeah.
and Biden got 77 million. That's a lot of people voted.
And how many of them are no longer with us and are voting from the afterlife?
Well, the only one I know about is Blakely down in Georgia, Joel Blakely. And they came running into court with an affidavit. And see, the guy died in 1997 or 1998. And he voted. Well, Mr. Raffensperger from Georgia dug the ballot out. And he says, no, he didn't. His wife did. And she votes as Mrs. Joseph Blakely. And she signed the paper, and it's right there, and he showed him. He says, so you're wrong. It wasn't Joseph Blakely. It was his wife, and she is very much alive, and he died, and you're right. And he's off the voting rolls and was taken off after he died. So he stuffed it to them. You know. But there was a good example of somebody raising a big issue, had an affidavit, and come to find out, and it was understandable. She was Mrs. Joseph Blakely.
Well, I don't see why there's any would be any controversy about that.
Well, but at the outset it was.
Well, I mean about the lady, but now that's kind of cute in a way, because he wasn't suggesting, the person who was the plaintiff wasn't suggesting it was Mrs. Blakely. He was suggesting it was Mr. Blakely.
Yeah.
So, did Raffensperger, or whatever his name is, did he answer the question specifically?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes, I read the article.
In what paper?
He looked it up.
In what paper?
It was. I don't read papers. It was in Google. Google News.
Oh, okay.
So it was probably the the Atlanta Times or something, and because he had the answer and they showed it and explained the whole thing, that it was Mrs. Joseph Blakely.
Google is not a reliable source.
So what?
Google is not a reliable
Well,
source.
they quoted the newspaper. The
Okay.
Atlanta Journal
Yeah. all right.
had the story.
The Atlantic Journal?
Yeah.
Well, that's not the paper.
Well, whatever it is down there.
The Journal Constitution or something like that.
The Atlanta paper
The Atlanta
had the story in there, and he showed him the picture holding the ballot. So,
I,
but I mean, so I can see how it happens. Somebody tells them something, and they run with it.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, they got stuffed. Explanation there.
And I would guess there is probably another journal saying that's not true.
I don't know how they can say it's not true. The guy showed it to him.
They say the guy showed it to him.
Richard, where are you coming from?
No, I'm saying.
I'm telling you.
You're saying that is absolutely gospel. Why do you believe it's gospel?
Because I read the article and it quotes the guy who's a Secretary of State from Georgia, and I assume he didn't lie.
Or are they quoting him? Maybe it's true.
Because he showed him the story.
But Google would never quote something in favor of Trump. I will say that. Google would never do that.
Do what?
Quote anything in favor of Trump.
Really?
Yes.
You think they're that bad?
I believe they are. Now Google will link to something, and if it was a link to an AJC article.
Yeah, it was. It was an article. All their stuff is articles.
Yeah.
On Google News, it's
and
either.
Google News hides things.
Well,
They hide things.
They put stuff on from Fox.
If it's usually far down on the list.
Yeah, I see it
This
every
is a
day.
big controversy. That's why the two of them, it wasn't Google people, but it was.
Zuckerman and
they're not Google
and
people, but that's
Dorsey.
why they're behind.
And
That's
Dorsey.
why they're always asking these guys up before Congress.
I know.
These guys are not honest.
No, they just point out the fact that it's misleading information.
They don't just point. They have an algorithm which.
You know who
says-
surprises me?
What?
Her name is Kaylee McEnany. She went to Georgetown and graduated from Harvard Law School. And she stands up there, and some of the things she comes out with.
Name one.
She was on there today. She's just spouting the Trump lie.
See, this is where I know, you do.
Now, here's my point. The election's over. Period.
It is not absolutely
Well,
probably over, but it's not legal with the
sometime on or about the 15th of December,
14th is the
14th, they're going to vote, and it's going to be done.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not right this minute.
No, it's not. So, but the chances are, Biden's the president.
So what did Kaylee McEnany, whatever her name is, what did she?
No, she went on today, and went on and on about Michigan, and how the votes are all terrible, and it's wrong, and blah 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 blah.
And you're
blah.
saying that's a lie.
And well, because they had a vote yesterday. in
Who had a
Michigan.
vote?
Well, the board of registrars. There's 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. The 2 Republicans, they voted. The vote was to wipe out some votes. Well, the Republicans voted no. The Democrats voted yes. So it was a tie. Means it goes out. They were going to wipe out votes out of Detroit. So there was a big brouhaha. Huge brouhaha. Then they got back together, and the 2 Republicans changed their vote, and they voted unanimously not to touch it.
Now, I heard about that. Then I heard they started calling the Republicans racists and trying to steal black votes. They were browbeat.
Mm-hmm.
So you think that's right?
Yeah.
You think it's right to browbeat?
They didn't browbeat. They called them. They said, can't do that. You're going to throw all those votes out in Detroit?
Why did they say don't do it? Were the votes valid or invalid?
Yes, the votes were valid.
How do you know?
Because they said, the Secretary of State said they were.
That doesn't mean they're valid. You think Secretary of States are completely valid people, honest, absolutely honest? Why would you trust the Secretary of State in Michigan? You don't know anything about Michigan.
I know nothing
don't.
about it.
Then why would you trust him?
Only because he's the guy in charge.
But that doesn't mean it's honest. That doesn't mean it's
Yeah,
true and valid.
But he's the one that makes the final
But
decision.
that doesn't, if you have a commissioner who has a right to vote, he has a right to vote.
Well, the long and short of it is that it got turned.
It got turned because they
And when
started
she
calling
was
these
on-
people racist.
When she was on Fox, ranting and raving about a huge victory for Trump, they interrupted to tell her that it was just changed. That's all I'm saying.
So, what's the point?
She's the one that stood up and said, I will never lie to you.
Well, is she lying? You didn't have no reason to say she's lying.
She lies all the time. I've watched her. And I think it's a shame. And it's her job. Don't get me wrong. She was hired, and she goes down and does what he wants her to say.
Like all the Democratic press, right? They all do that, yep.
They're
And I
all
think it's
corrupt.
wrong.
They're all
I think
corrupt.
it's wrong. But you said
They're
that
all
was a
corrupt.
lie that this woman said in this particular case, and you have nothing to back that up.
Yes, I do.
What?
Because what she said was wrong.
What did she say that was wrong?
She said that was a huge victory for
It
Trump.
was until they beat these guys up and turned them around. And at that point after that, it wasn't a great victory. But up until that point, it was.
Okay. All right. We disagree.
No, Dick.
You, listen,
Tell me what I hear.
you know the thing that bothers me most? You didn't vote for the guy. I don't know why you didn't vote for him.
The point is not that I didn't vote for him. The point is what is right and what is
No, but,
wrong.
I mean, you are a great defender of his.
No, I had told you, before we got on the air, I told you what his foreign policy mistakes were. What he is supporting in Yemen is murder. No less murder than the Obama administration in Libya, which was really horrible. But it's a murderous war criminal type thing. I am not wanting Trump to be president. I'm not wanting Biden to be president. You're wanting Biden to be president. Biden.
Let me try again. Of the 4 choices on my ballot, he was the one I voted for because the other two, libertarian and whatever the other one was, I forget. And I did not approve of the way Trump ran the country. So therefore, the only choice I really had as a voter was Biden, in my opinion. So I voted for
I
him.
heard what you said, and I say about Biden, he's a criminal. His kid's a criminal. He supported every ridiculous war,
Let's go
including
back-
Libya.
Let's go back to the words you just threw at me. How do you prove he was a criminal?
Okay, you
prove
wanted
it?
me to listen to it. Oh, no, I have the evidence, and you know the evidence, and we've discussed this
What's the
before,
evidence?
and you've admitted
How
it.
do you prove he's a
No,
criminal?
you've admitted it before in other shows. His son, you can say, no, let me finish. His son goes to the Ukraine and gets a job that he's not qualified for with a lot of money. Now, it is beyond sanity to even think that kid wouldn't have got the job unless his father was Joe Biden, and this was Biden influence peddling so his son could get a payday. It is beyond reason not to see that, and that Biden is a crook.
What I've said to you, and I'll say it again, as the Vice President of the United States, he should not have let his son do it. But that doesn't make him a crook. It makes him made a poor judgment, in my opinion.
It
He
made
should
him
never have done it.
He's a crook unless he is on record of saying, Hunter, do not take that job. This is evil, and they're only giving it to you because of me. Unless he's on record of that, he's a crook. And he can't be prosecuted, I know. But he's a crook, and it is beyond reason to suggest otherwise.
Well, we disagree on that. I said to you, and I've said it, I say it today, he did not use good judgment. He never should have let the kid do it.
Then he's crooked
Okay?
if he didn't stop it.
And he did it.
He's crooked. He had a fiduciary responsibility to the people of the United States to make sure
I agree with that.
to make sure that nothing in his office smelled. And this stunk to high heaven.
Well,
He had that fiduciary. Tell me he didn't have that fiduciary responsibility.
absolutely.
Then he's crooked.
He never should have
Then
done
he's
it.
a crook.
No, I don't think. I don't go that far.
Why not?
Because I don't think he's a crook and a thief.
But why don't you think he's a crook?
Because I think he didn't use good judgment.
But he
probably-
allowed something crooked to happen because of himself. It would not have happened if he were not vice president. It would not have happened.
Oh, I don't.
So he's a crook.
Okay. You believe that, I don't. I just think he didn't use good judgment.
Here's my philosophy of life. It's a part of my philosophy. If 1 + 1 equals 2, you say 1 + 1 equals 2. That's reason. Now 1 + 1 here equals 2. And
How do you know that 1 + 1 = 2?
There you go, yeah.
Because somebody in the first grade
'Cause-
told you that.
because I believe in science, Dick.
'Cause somebody
And
in the-
you don't believe in
Somebody
science.
in the first grade.
You don't believe in
no,
science.
somebody in the first grade gave you a table card, and you stood up and said 1 + 1 is 2.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Never tell you the story.
I rest my case, ladies and gentlemen.
Let me tell you a story. If you can't prove 1 + 1 is 2, it's what someone told you.
I can prove it.
Anyway,
I can prove it.
so let me tell you. I came home one at first grade. My mother said, "Hi, son, how you doing?" I said, "Oh, good, Mom. What did you learn today?" "Mom, I learned gazintas." She said, "You what?" I said, "I learned gazintas." She says, "Oh, okay." So you know what I was talking about. Well, that night or the next night, we had teacher night. So my mother went and said to the sister, Sister Mary Bennett, she said, how's he doing? "Oh, he's a wonderful boy. He's great in class. He does a good job." And she said, my mother said, "Well, I don't know what's going on, sister, but he came home the other day and he said he learned gazintas." And sister started to laugh. And she said, "Well, when you see him, ask him what gazintas is." So my mother said, "Okay." So she goes home and she says, before I went to bed, she says, Tell me what gazintas is." "Mom, 2 gazinta 4, 2 times." I learned division, but it's gazintas.
I knew that. I knew that. I went to program
2
school,
gazinta,
too.
2 gazinta 4. So anyway, No, I agree with what you're saying. I wince every time I think of him letting that kid sit on that board, all right? Bothers me. Dumb, stupid mistake, okay? And by the way, politicians make dumb, stupid mistakes.
That was criminal. And you have to know, you have to know with his lifestyle, he's done a lot of that.
Joe Biden
It's a crook.
has been in politics for 47 years.
And his pockets are deep.
You couldn't write a book long enough to know all the things in those 47 years that he did for the guy down the street, the milkman, his cousin, his uncle. You haven't got a book.
I'm sorry I said anything about Joe. I'll never do this again.
Let me tell you, you couldn't, you're a writer. You haven't got the time. You won't live long enough to write all the things that I know about, and I don't even know any of them, but I'm telling you.
Well, then you know nothing. Well, then I can write a book about everything you know.
Knowing politics as I know him. And if you think that's the only thing he did was put his kid on that board, you're kidding yourself.
I never I said it. I believe he has been a crook from day one.
And we can start with anybody you want to pick in the Congress.
I agree.
Of the United States.
I agree.
And the favors they've done and the deals they've pulled.
Yes, but the crook that's going to be president is Joe Biden, and we're discussing him. I don't disagree that they're all crooks.
Well, wait. There's 45 of them before him.
Yep.
And if you think all of those guys came in there holier than thou and untainted.
Wait a minute. George Washington had to cut his own cherry tree.
Give me a break.
George Washington had to cut his own cherry tree.
Who do you think paid for the teeth?
There you go, Paul Revere.
So let me tell you, we live in a corrupt society, sadly but true.
So so I propose a reform to make it less corrupt, because that's what I do.
How do you make it less corrupt?
Well, the reform I suggested would of not having money in politics by having.
No question about that. The greatest problem we have is PAC money and the amount of money that's poured into I've shared with you, and I take medication. And when I pay for some of my medications, a lot of it's covered by insurance, but I still pay. And then I watch an ad on television for one of the medications that I take that I pay through the nose for, my cost. And they run these ads with a beautiful lady running through the feathers and the whir, and then
But she's going to get the heartbreak of psoriasis at 4%.
Yeah, and then they say down the bottom. And now they've changed it. They used to say, well, you'll die. Now they say could be fatal. So it doesn't sound as bad. Yeah. But the ads they run, those ads on national television, you know what those things cost them? $50,000, $60,000 a pop, okay? And they probably spend $4 or $5 or $6 million a year just promoting Eliquis or Duplexit or whatever they are, and they're all dangerous drugs. If the Congress, like they did to the cigarette companies, and I was one of the ones who lost a lot of revenue when they cut out advertising, because I used to have Marlboro and Winston tastes good like a cigarette should, and when they cut out, you can't advertise. They should do the same thing to the pharmaceutical companies, okay? And they could cut the price of their medicines in half, and then stop giving money to the political campaigns. The amount of money that those pharmaceutical companies pour into the campaigns is unbelievable.
It is.
Okay?
And I did have something I was going to show you. I bought it on my phone. But,
I'll tell you another thing. You know what other thing bothers me? And you never get an answer, because I've asked various people. When the United States government makes a settlement with the company that made OxyContin, and they get $48 million, who gets it? Where does it go? Oh, it goes to the government. Well, what do they do with it?
It has to be deposited. I believe it has to be deposited to the Treasury. Whatever check that they
And then where does it go?
Where all the money goes, Dick.
Yeah, okay. So you see what I'm saying? And you hear these big settlements, that the attorney gets on and brags
all-
about it.
It's all cute. It's all a game.
Oh,
I mean, I did bring in something I was going to bring up. I had Biden's proposed cabinet and undersecretaries. They're all from the defense industry. They're all from pro-war think tanks. It's all, as bad as Trump was, I will say, this is really worse. And Trump was not good. The one thing I could say about Trump is he brought him in and he shoved him out. He brought him in and he shoved him out.
as long as the minute they disagreed with him, out they went.
Yeah. Well, Espa stayed on longer than he should have. But he brought them in.
The only reason Esper survived till after the election is he didn't want to do it before the election.
Probably.
And then the kid he just blew out yesterday because the kid said it was cyber, blah, blah, blah. That it was one of the best elections we ever had. Trump threw him out yesterday. And there's more to go.
And they should go. And they should go.
They're going to go anyway, but that's beside the point.
Maybe they do. I think they would all love to hang on into the Biden administration.
Well, first of all, I was explaining this to some people. 90% of the people are longtime government employees. The only people who really change with administrations are the secretaries, the undersecretary. It's the top 4 or 5.
And almost all of them are needed, which is my other reform I proposed. We have to move the capitals to Wyoming. That way,
Now, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because I've been really thinking about this. Because I really spent a lot of time thinking. And here's what I'm trying to figure out. If we do that, what do we do? What do we do with the Capitol building? What do we do with the
I've already
Department of
got
Justice?
that covered.
What do we do with them?
I've got that covered. Now, they all want to make it a state. No. What happened when we formed the Capitol was some of the land was taken from Virginia and some was taken from Maryland.
Yeah.
Now, that goes back to Maryland and Virginia, and it can be theme park.
A theme park?
A theme park, a government,
What, that Capitol building?
with everything.
Look at those. You ever seen?
There's history
Can I
there.
ask you a question?
I mean, look
have
at
you ever been?
Sturbridge Village.
Have you ever gone down there and visit some of those senators and congressmen?
You have.
Their
I know.
office.
I know.
You ever see their offices?
You were in there French kissing them.
Can I tell you something? Did you ever see? I had lunch with the speaker, Tip. I sat right at his table, and what a lunch we had. Anyway,
And you know what he said to you? Dick, what are the poor people doing? Because he's out of touch. He was out of touch, and
Let me
now he's
tell you
really out of touch.
can I tell you something? You ought to see their offices. They would make what a beautiful condo that thing would make. You could have a beautiful. You ought to see some of them got fireplaces in their offices. I mean, unbelievable.
This is where my proposal is really good. Because what we do is we find out,
And the White House. What are you going to do with that? With the big wall all around? We got a big wall around it now.
Part of the theme park. Dick, you're not using the imagination that God gave you, and
Theme
it
park?
breaks my heart.
How you going to have a theme park at the White House?
Sturbridge Village is history. The Washington, D.C. is history. Civil War, War of 1812, they burned it down, we built it back up. Come on, Dick, use the imagination.
Would you pay to go to the White House?
I already do. Every paycheck I've ever gotten, it was a miracle. Some of it went, all of it went to the swamp. All right? But now we put them up and we stipulate. We find a town, we buy the town up there, we take its high school. They can have their sessions in the high school. Classrooms can be used as offices. That's it. You don't get any more.
Oh, okay.
The mayor's
But then look we got to build a new Capitol building.
No, we don't.
In
See,
Wyoming.
We don't. See, Dick, the imagination.
What do you do?
please.
Put a tent up in a field?
Well, that's probably not a bad idea. I told you why I got that was because I slept out in a tent in June.
In Wyoming?
In Wyoming, and boy, was it cold.
Yeah.
So get a
Imagine
tent.
December in Wyoming.
But no, the mayor's house. We bought the town. The mayor's house is the new White House. You deal with it. Deal with it, Mr. President, Mr. Biden. The town hall is the Capitol. The high school is where they have the meetings and they pull down like in the high school. You pull down those seats.
Yeah.
So that's all they need. Are you okay?
I can't. How do you? What would you do with the presidential limousine? no place to park it in Wyoming.
Wow, have you ever been to Wyoming? There is plenty of space. It's called it isn't called the Big Sky Country for nothing.
I know. I'm
I
telling
mean,
you.
you got land.
Oh, but then what? Then you got to bring Air Force One in and out of there.
Yeah, there's Air Force bases in
No,
Morchoe.
they really, Air Force One's a joke. They don't need that plane. They can get a little Beechcraft for the president to get in. All he needs is him and a Secret Service guy and a pilot.
Yeah.
That's all he needs.
See, this is the thing, Dick. We're not overthinking. We're doing the right level of thinking here.
I mean, they got this SUV, a Chevrolet Tahoe, that's made of steel. I mean, even the tires, they're special tires. You can't shoot them out.
There you go.
And the glass, you can hardly see the president with all the.
Well, see, now I'll keep that big. What is it? A Tahoe? Did you say?
Tahoe.
I would keep that because we can forget Camp David. We can sell that too. President and the Mrs. or the president and the Mister. When
Buttigieg, yeah.
Gets to there, then they can go to a national park in Wyoming for their vacation. So we don't need Camp David, and they can use that. They can go in there.
Now you got to know, that Biden goes to Nantucket every summer.
That's his problem.
No, he goes down there.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
know.
big story in the
Okay.
Globe. Had a big
to,
story.
You know who goes to Nantucket? All the cool people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all the. Oh, did we do well at our think tank this year?
Yeah.
That's the people. He doesn't need it. The last people we want him hanging out with.
But he has a problem though. See, because
No,
I've been.
he has a problem.
Oh,
Now
I've been
you-
in. I've been
now
to-
you tell me.
I've been to Nantucket, and the airport only can take in those Cape airplanes.
That's why he doesn't.
Air Force One
that's why
can't land.
He's not going
He's
there.
going to have to fly to Otis, the base on the Cape, and land the big plane there. And you got to take a small plane or a helicopter over.
That's why we have to get this out to Wyoming. Dick, work with me here. We got to get out to Wyoming.
Well, because when Joe is at Nantucket, Obama will be at Martha's Vineyard.
We got to get out. We got to get this out to Wyoming. We got to shift that center of gravity.
Well, you know what? I think what I'm going to start looking at. I got to find out about what it's going to cost me to fly out there. Because I think what we ought to do, we'll take Drew with us and a couple of cameras, and we'll go out to Wyoming. And we'll go out and we'll do some research, and we'll find a place where we can build the Capitol.
We're not building anything, Dick. We're buying a town that has a high school, a mayor's house,
A town hall
a town hall,
and a library.
a library, and that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
These
Hey,
guys-
Drew, you want to go to Wyoming?
No, I'm a fiscal conservative. It'll take too much money to get there.
All
I
right.
think we should send all the horsemen over there.
Why don't we? There's no doubt there's some there. There's also elk manure, buffalo manure. No, we can all hitchhike. We're fiscal conservative. You're the lead thumb.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm going to fly. We'll fly out there.
All right, Dick says we
There's
have
got
to
to be a
fly.
flight. There's got to be a flight from Chicago to Wyoming, someplace.
Oh yeah.
What's a city in Wyoming?
Cheyenne.
Cheyenne.
And there's also Casper. No, that's Montana. Oh, is it Casper, Wyoming? Yeah, Casper.
Yeah, Casper, Wyoming. Yeah. Cheyenne. Yeah. Well, that's a good Cheyenne. That goes back to our Native Americans.
There you go.
Ah, great place for the capital.
Great. Well, no,
Cheyenne.
we're not going to. That's their.
My
big
father
thing.
used to sing a great tune. Oh, why did I ever leave Wyoming? Oh, why did I ever have to go?
Now we know where the mamas came from on his life.
Oh, why did I ever leave Wyoming?
It's ancestry. I know.
Oh, I'm telling you.
See, I don't talk about the weirdness in my family.
Well, I'm telling you. My father used to sing that all the time. Why did I ever leave Wyoming?
But he was never there.
Oh, he never went to Wyoming in his life. He was from Dorchester. He soldiered in France.
Dorchester.
He spent World War I for 3 years in France. In World War II, he was up in Newfoundland, in the North Atlantic Patrol. That's where he was. But he never went to. And when we were kids growing up, one of the troubles with people like my dad went to France, and right away he thinks he can speak French. He knows about 8 words, right? But he could talk French, and he would tell us about all the different things. And he was explained to us that just like the United States, this Parisian French, people in Bordeaux, they have a different dialect. And then people up in Le Havre, they speak another dialect. So a Parisian has a trouble understanding somebody from Bordeaux, and then the Marseille, people from Marseille can't understand the people. He says, like, you go down south, and you have to, what did you say? You know,
But the kid from Dorchester could
Dorchester.
Dorchester could
you know how to
understand
say that right. Dorchester.
I was born in Dorchester.
Okay, so you know.
Dorchester.
You have to say that. Codman Square, my father came from. And he was always talked about, he had it on his car, and they have stickers, OFD. Originally from Dorchester, OFD. Till the day he died, he had that sticker on his car. And he'd get a new one. Every time he get a new car, go buy a new one. 15 cents in some place in Dorchester we used to go. The other thing he used to do, I was just thinking of Veterans Day. He was in the old Yankee division, the YD, and they had a club on Huntington Avenue, the YD Club. It was like the Veterans of Foreign Wars and the American Legion. And every Veterans Day, he would get out, dig out one of the uniforms, and in he'd go. And he'd go and see all his buddies. And every year he'd come home and he'd have tears because somebody didn't show up. Someone's gone, you know. But he used to go every year. And then he loved Memorial Day. Well, it used to be Decoration Day in those days. But he used to go to we all had to go to the parade. You know, he'd get us all dressed up and he'd march in the parade every year. But yeah, those were some fun times. But anyway, I think sometime on or about the 20th of January, there'll be as Kayleigh McEnany said, yes, we'll be having the president sworn in for his second term. And so I'm waiting for that day to see which one of them show up.
That will be interesting.
Although I read an interesting article from Michael Cohen, that's Donald Trump's previous lawyer. Who did
an unimpeachable source.
Yeah, who did some jail time. Anyway, he was asked what he thinks, and he had an interesting observation. He says, I am convinced that what he will do, because there's no way he's going to sit there and watch Biden sworn in. He will not, he just couldn't do it. He can't handle that. And he will not greet him at the White House. So what I think he's going to do is because every Christmas he goes to Mar-a-Lago, his place down in Florida. And he says, here's what he's going to do. He'll go to Mar-a-Lago, and he'll never come back to Washington. He'll stay there. And then Pence will become acting president, and Pence will welcome Biden to the White House, and Pence will go over to the Capitol with him and watch him be sworn in. So that's what he thinks.
Well, Mr. Cohen, it's been a long time since I read, and I didn't read it all, Dante's Inferno. But there is a circle of hell for traitors. And if anything of the Inferno is true, then Cohen will be in part of that circle.
Oh, well, sure.
And I should say that would be bad form if Trump loses and does not ride with Biden to the.
Do you think he will?
I didn't say that.
I can't see him doing that.
But all I've said is I don't know.
Yeah.
But if he does it, more power to him.
Oh, if he does, it'd be great.
And if he doesn't, then shame on him.
Yeah.
But you said you can't see him doing it. We're on record for that.
Yeah.
You are on record.
All right, I'm on record. I don't think he can do it.
I don't know.
But we'll see.
I would be.
We'll see.
But
right now, this country is in a turmoil, and the one thing that really distresses me as a human being living here is that this country is split almost down the middle. When you look at those popular vote numbers, that's scary. I mean, he won by 6 million or whatever it is, but that's not the point. That's 77 to 72, 49% of the country.
But most times it's something like 48 to 52.
Yeah, but not with the bitterness of this one.
And who's bitter? As the Democrats have been spouting stuff. You can't say that.
Look, I didn't say that. I said it's a very bitter situation. Both sides, terrible.
When Floyd died, I wrote a column about it. I said I excoriated the police. They should not put knees on. But they're trained to do that. They're trained by a foreign country.
It's terrible.
Now,
and we got to go.
but there was, C.M. Harris said, and I quoted him, I hope we can pull back.
Well, we'll see. Long way to go. Richard, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was a good program. It was fun.
It was fun.
It was very fun. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it
I
too.
like to duke it out.
I like to duke it out. Anyway, hi, Dak.
Oh, yeah. Listeners and viewers.